How you doing, people? I'm Richie from Anti-Corruption Scotland TV. Here once again with Robert's Bravo. And we're here to talk about Robert's court case. Firstly, I would like to just go over the last video that we put out. We welcome your comments in the comment sections. More importantly, we welcome any questions that you've got. And we would be quite happy to cover any questions that the people have got, Robert. So, thanks for coming along again to discuss this court case that you were at on the 25th, was it, of?
25th April 2022.
Okay, so people might not know this, but for a while there, they weren't allowing people into the courts. But now they've started to allow people into the courts.
That's correct.
You appeared in court. Yourself appeared in court. Not the entity. And there was other 13 witnesses there. Can you explain to us what happened? Just take it for a start and just let the people know what's been happening.
Well, there was a kind of couple of confusions. On the 22nd of April this year, I went to court because that was the date that was my understanding I was to appear for this alleged fake trial. When I went there, I was told at the reception that I wasn't on the court records and I wasn't at court. So I had a dispute with the female with the list, and I decided to go to the criminal department and challenge them to find out what was going on and why I was not at court at that date, because that was the date I had wrote down. But unfortunately, the day I went on the 22nd, I didn't have the bit of paper to show, because it was a usher in the court that wrote it down and handed me the paper, because I precisely asked for that bit of paper. So I went to the criminal office. They told me I was up on the 25th, which was 3 days later. I know they've changed the date. I don't know why, but they've changed the date, and I think it was just to upset me, myself. Anyway, on the 25th, I went to court at 10 o'clock. I met some people outside the court supporters to support me. We weren't aware at that time that people were getting in the court, but on the day, on the 25th, we did get in the court. Everybody got in the court. So what we did is we sat all morning waiting to be called at court 13. That never happened. So we went away for our dinner and came back. 2 o'clock, we were back up the stairs for 2 o'clock, waiting outside the court. And the next thing, I was approached and was told that it had been moved to court 15, 2 courts along, which I didn't find. I found that quite strange.
Yep.
But I could see the man acting in capacity as procurator fiscal jumping about like a headless chicken. So obviously he was buzzing because I was going in front of him. So anyway, when we went to the court, or the administrative hearing to be more precise, a constable came out with a clerk. And before I managed to say something, I says to the constable, before we go any further, before you say what you're going to say, and there is a court today, and if there's any unlawful activity, I'll be requiring your help as a constable. So right now I'm putting you on your oath.
Yep.
And he accepted that in front of the witnesses.
Right, okay.
He says, well, I've got an issue with the people here. Supposed to wear a mask. And the people, the witnesses that was there, say, we're not wearing masks. He says, okay, I'm not going to force you. Well, I can't force you because it's your choice, right? Consent. So the clerk says, I've got statements for you. Do you want them? Mm-hmm. It just happened that the constable was holding in his hand in a big brown envelope. And I was looking and I was like, statements? They don't give you statements on the day of trial. Mm-hmm. Right? So I've got the envelope and I've opened it up. And it happens to be, listen to this, people, it happens to be the original police statements, word for word, that they have stated. You don't get that in any full disclosure when you go through a trial in the Glasgow Sheriff Court or any other court. You get to read them in the the Procurator Fiscal's office, or in a court if they've not got you in the Procurator Fiscal's office, but you cannot take them away. Well, I've still got them. I've still got them.
So you've got the evidence then of these
statements? What that was a desperation status of the Fiscal to try and get me into the box known as the dock. Mm-hmm. Right? And I've told yourself, Richie, that day that I was taking in that. Right. And I tell you before I do something, if I'm going to go in or whatever I'm going to do, I tell you, I'll let you know. Yep. So what happened is, we walked to the entrance of court 15. I've walked in, and as I've walked in, the clerks decided to kind of jam the door open and hold them out, the witnesses that should be coming in behind myself. And I heard one of the witnesses saying to the clerk, what's happening? and he said to the people, there's a problem with the hearing. Right? And I knew right? And I knew exactly what was happening. He was meaning myself because he knew what I was about to do, right? So he's come over and the constable stood at the door. He's come over. He says, come this way. I said, come what way? He says, get in there. I said, I'm not getting in there. I'm staying here. I'm going to address that man on the bench.
Was he talking about the dock when he says come this way?
Tagged me in. And I said, you've no authority over me. Don't tell me what to do, right? End of story. I'm not getting in there to address a man on the bench. And I was very abrupt with him because these people think that they can bully, coerce people. And a lot of people would panic because there's a constable in the court. It wasn't a constable, you'll find out in about a couple of minutes. So what happened is the clerk says, are you Robert Sproul? And I says to the clerk, my name is Robert. And the man acting capacity sheriff didn't like that comment. What is your name? He says, my name is Robert. He says, I'm going to ask you again what your name is. I says, well, my given name is Robert. My creator, my mother gave me that name. And that's the name you're getting here today, sir. Never call him your honour. I don't give him any respect. I just call him sir. Just to be honourable, to give him some sort of acknowledgement. Now, bear in mind, people, this guy's interacting with myself, right? Right now, he doesn't hear or see me, but he's playing a game. And a lot of people have to pick up on this and learn about these administrative hearings because they're walking into a suicide lane, right? So he says, what's your surname? He's not getting a surname. I'm asking you your surname. I says, well, you can ask as many times as you want, you're not getting a surname. That name on that document that man there, over there, is going on that paper isn't my name. It's a Crown copyright name. I do not have a Crown copyright name, right? That's a fact. End of. I'm going to ask you one more time. I says to him, okay, you're going to get the same answer. My name is Robert. So what happened then is he shouted for the Procurator Fiscal, the man acting in capacity as Procurator Fiscal, to stand up. He says, there does not seem to be somebody called Robert Sproul in this court today. Issue a warrant for failure to appear.
This is going to get interesting, Robert.
Right? And I was looking at the man and I shouted to him, oh, you idiot. Have you read the case papers in that file that's in that case file? And he put his head down, people. He couldn't look at me. And he couldn't wait to get away from that bench because that was him caught point blank in front of witnesses, committing perjury.
And fraud.
So I've turned to the constable and says, Constable, I need your assistance. That man up there's committing a crime. And what did the constable say to me, people? What's your name? I told him, Robert. He says, what's your surname? I says, listen, we're not going there. End of story. I require your assistance. So my daughter is standing at the back of the door with her head in. And she shouted to the constable, why are you not assisting my father? And the constable turned round and says to my daughter, who, where? So he is openly admitted in front of people that I wasn't there, right? Now, after the issue, I swear to God, people, it's quite funny the way the Procurator Fiscal was jumping about. You'd think he'd won the lottery because it was me in the court and myself in the court. He was jumping about, he was so happy. He thought he had me, right? So what's happened is I've stood and the people in the court are like, what's happening? What just happened there? They couldn't believe their eyes, people. This is first, and that was the reason I did this. To expose, I talk about this in the street all the time and other places, and a lot of people haven't seen this happen in real life. So what I've did is I went in my way and got myself locked up to prove the point, expose the fraud. But at this point, there was no warrant. It's got to be processed before they can take you away. So they couldn't touch me in that administrative hearing. So I says to the witnesses, let's go to the criminal office. Let's go hold up Paul McGinley, Glasgow Sheriff Court manager. So we went there. Went into the office and I've asked for him direct and they're like, he's busy. I said, I don't care how busy he is. I require that man here now. Crimes have been committed in a public building. And I want this issue sorted now. So about 5 minutes later, people, he's come up to the court office and he says, how you doing? I says, I know who you are, Paul McGinley. He says, what's the problem? And I was explaining. But in the middle of the conversation, I stopped and asked him 2 questions, people. One question was, can you hear me? And he looked at me and he says, what? I says, can you hear me? And he says, I can hear you. I says, can you see me? He said, I can see you. I said, well, can you explain how the man on a bench in a public building, sitting on that bench, can't hear and see me, but he's acknowledging me? Now, there's a warrant being issued for my failure to appear. I'm speaking to yourself, the man, right now. So if I'm not here, who's the warrant for? And he went into a tiffy, he was panicking. That's the day with the
knew
court.
it was coming.
That was today. I said, that's not today with the sheriff, because the first port of call, the first link in the chain is your office takes the court file into the court to give the man on the bench information for him to read so he knows what's going into that court. It's not even a court.
Yep.
I says, then I can verify that. And he started panicking. That's not to do with me. I says, it's plenty to do with you. You're allowing criminality in a public building.
Yep.
Now, 2 minutes later, a constable comes in, or an officer, whatever you want to call him. And he says, Robert, I say, see, before you go any further, constable, do you have the warrant in your possession? And he looked at me and I says, do you have the warrant in your possession? And he says, no, it's getting processed. I says, well, you wait outside there. You stand out there. I'm going nowhere, right? I'm staying where I'm at. I'm going nowhere till I finish speaking to him. When you've got the warrant for this entity, fiction, come back and get me, right? Because I know you're going to arrest me anyway. I said, but meanwhile, stand outside the door and wait there. I'm going nowhere. I'm not running away. You don't intimidate me or frighten me, anybody in this building, right? I say, so stand out there. And he did, people. He was like out the door with a tail between his legs. Didn't know what to do because he can't touch a man. So I've had a dispute with McGinley and he's wanted to exit the sharp exit. So I've walked outside and my daughter says to me, Dad, what's happening now? I says, I'm going to cells, Daniel. What for? I says, because I'm not here. And Daniel says to me, Dad, I can't get my head around that. I said, well, that's the way the system works. I know a lot of people know that, but that's the way the system works. And that was the reason I did what I did, Daniel, to show. I keep telling you about this, and you look at me like I'm stupid and I'm not being true. So you've now seen it with first hand. What do you think? And she says, that's terrible. And she started arguing with the two constables in the corridor. Why are you arresting my father? I says, it's part of the game, Daniel. Leave it go. I'll be back here tomorrow and I'll deal with it. So what happened is, I've went with these two constables. I've given consent to go with them, right? The point being, people, this isn't a game. And what happens here is, if I could have walked out that court building and went home, but that night, my door would have been kicked in, and I'd have been forcibly removed from my property, and I wasn't going to put my family through that, my daughter, my granddaughter. So I just stayed where I was, because I know I've got to come back in the morning.
Standing in honour anyway, Robert, doing that.
I know, but a lot of people say, oh, you can't do that, but there's a lot of would-be experts out there. People in the past have told me this and told me that, this is how it works, and they've ended up in the jail because they've listened to somebody that's never done it, right? And that's a fact. I do it, and I take what I do deadly serious. So I went in the lift. Obviously the rest of them can't come in the lift, but they've not cuffed me, people, because there's no warrant. They can't take me because I've not given them any reason to grab me or resist, because I'm in honour. They're in dishonour. They're standing in line and uttering of false documents with this warrant. So I went down the lift, I said, what cell am I going into? He said, no, go outside, we're going to the office. So I went into their kind of buffy office with a runner and all that is. And there's three of them, there's two sitting in the office, one, and they're like, why are you doing what you're doing? I said, because it's the right thing to do. That's stupid. You're going to go to the police station, London Road, and you're going to come back here tomorrow, and you're going to get remanded. I said, I don't get remanded. How can you be so sure? I says, I don't want to go in that conversation. So he tried to get my name off me. I said, my name is Robert. Put it in lowercase, and I wouldn't give him the surname. So what happened is I've sat for 15 minutes. The sergeant's come in with this warrant and says, you have to take me to London Road police station. So they've took me to the van. They've no cuffed me, people, right? They've no cuffed me. Sat in the van, went to London Road police station, the same scenario. What's your name? Robert. The guy asked me again, what's your name? I said, Robert. He says, so your name's Robert. And I was really abrupt with him. People, I don't want to say on video, could it be dishonour, what I says to him. But at the end of the day, I told them basically to get me a cell and give me peace. They asked me medical questions, was I suicidal, or the usual rigmarole, and I didn't make a comment. I says, no comment, and he says, you're refusing, and I end up arguing with him. I say, listen, it doesn't matter what you think or what you say. It's what I say counts here. It's what I say goes on that computer. So I've clocked the document, this so-called warrant, and I've seen culpable reckless conduct. So I says to Constable, I can only see culpable. Is that reckless conduct charge? And he went, yes. And as he's moved his hand, people, guess what? On the document, I had the all-capital Robert Sproul name. So right now, they're committing fraud. They put a name on a document without my consent, without my knowledge. So that's uttering of false documents, uttering of a false name, and attaching a fiction to a person, to a man. Right, Richie? So I got put in a cell. The next day I've got took down this is a bit people have to pay attention and listen, because this is the truth of the matter. And if you think it's different, try it and see what happens to you. So I'm sitting in a cell. I'm down there for about 6:45, sitting all day to 2:10. Get took up, cuffs put on my hand, right, people? This is a bit you have to understand, right? Walk to the court in cuffs. Now, the first point of the argument here is, when you're in cuffs, you're captured. You're now a vessel, and you're getting into their dock, and you're a person, right? That's the four things that you have to take note of here, people. When I verify this in private capacity under full liability, even on a charge of perjury, right? So this is a point that people have to realise what they have to do and understand what they have to do, because if they take the wrong course of action, they're getting remanded in custody, right? I've seen it tons of times. So when I walked in there, the man on the bench, I've seen him before, I've had an argument before with him, I can't remember his name, but he's a reasonable man, but he can be a total animal when he wants to be, if you rub him up the wrong way. So I went in, the clerk didn't ask me my name, it was the sheriff. Are you Robert Sproul? I says, I am. So with a look of relief, he was happy to hear that. Because, right, what happens then, people, if you are in the cuffs, you're a vessel, you're in their dock, and you declare that you're a man while you're in the cuffs. As I've told people in previous videos, Mongo Bovey, the sheriff in Paisley Sheriff Court, said 3 things to me. Don't see you, don't hear you, and can ignore you in that box, right? So this is what people have to understand. When you go in that box, you, the man or woman, isn't what you think you are. You're a person. You're a vessel in their dock, right? So the first thing the man, the Procurator Fiscal, there were 2 of them in the court. One was sitting at the side of the court, another one was on the computer, another one was directing him. So I don't know if he was a trainee. Says, we're not opposing bail. So when I'm in there, people, I'm thinking, I'm up here for failure to appear. Right? But I wasn't, because that wasn't mentioned. The sheriff says, I see on the court file here that something happened yesterday in the court, but he wouldn't get any detail. But no, if I failed to appear, people, right, that would have really opened a can of worms, because I was there. I've got witnesses that seen me there. And if it comes to it, the clerk, the sheriff, the Procurator Fiscal and the constable be called as witnesses and put under a charge of perjury. And the question you've got to ask, if I wasn't there the day before, who did they arrest? Right? You've got to know how to play the game, right? It's a game to them, but it's deadly serious to us, because we've got serious implications and consequences if we get this wrong. Now, remember this, when you're in cuffs, you're captured, you're a vessel, and you're in a dock. Make no mistake. And anybody tells you different, people, do your research, because I'm telling you how it is. I'm telling you for first-hand knowledge. I go out and do what I do. I've been locked up numerous times to get people answers, including myself. Right? Now, the judge says, okay, you're not opposing bail. The Fiscals jump back up and says, we want special conditions attached. Now, bear in mind, people, I'm happy to accept the status as person, because I know what I'm doing. I know how to do what I'm doing, right? Make no mistake. Because if I didn't know what I was doing, I would have been lying in Berlin on remand to my trial, right? What they told the sheriff, the man acting in capacity as sheriff, is they wanted 3 streets excluded in the conditions. And the sheriff made a joke to myself. He says, never know I could be barred for the 3 streets as well. He was quite humorous. I think he was quite relieved that I didn't cause him a problem, because the last time I faced this man, I caused him a heavy, heavy problem, right? So the clerk has read out the conditions, the standard conditions and the exclusion, right? So I've left, put back in the cell, waited to be released. People outside waiting for me, I didn't know. I knew my daughter was there and another woman in a wheelchair, Kathleen, because they were sitting in the court. But the rest was outside, because they didn't know that they were already in the court. So when I got out, I didn't think anything yet until I went home that night. And on this bail condition for this person, it says exclusion zone, and they had drew right around the whole of Glasgow city centre, no 3 streets, the whole lot. So what they did is misrepresented their words and deceived the sheriff. So the next day I went back to the Glasgow Sheriff Court to find out something, and I was speaking to, I'll not say too much because I don't want to get somebody in trouble, and I was advised that, I said, I wish I could challenge this condition here with the exclusion. And a nice man advised myself that it could be done.
Good.
So it was a learning curve, because I now know that you can challenge the bail conditions without a lawyer, right? So what happened is, he told me to come back tomorrow, type up a document saying what I wanted to challenge on the bail conditions,
Yep.
and it would be processed and a bail hearing would be reset. So I did that, but there was a different man I got, and I explained what I was told and how to do it. Went away, went on his computer, got a date set, came back and says, next Friday is your bail review. It's a bail review, people. You can put in for this if you know what you're doing, right? I didn't know about this, so this is something I've learned. Every day's a school day. You learn something new. So what happened is, I went the following week for this bail review, and it was a woman that was sitting on the bench, and a woman, procurator fiscal. Again, I've walked in the box known as a dog, people, right? Because I've still got to play the same part, because I've already started the process as a person, and I'm going back in as a person. What happened then is, the sheriff says, we've got a kind of technicality here. And I've looked at her, and she says, you're supposed to wait 5 days before you apply for the bail review. You've done it right away, and a date's been given. That shouldn't have happened. And she's looked at the fiscal, she said, but on that basis, I'm not going to do a technicality. We're going to treat this as a bail review today. Okay, procurator fiscal. And the procurator fiscal was kind of taken back. So the woman sheriff, she was all right, she was courteous, and she let me, as a person, have my say, right? Well, she would have to, because I'm the only one that can speak on my behalf.
Yep.
And she asked what the reason was, and I told her that it was my understanding at the last hearing that there was 3 streets to be excluded, but it came to my attention that the whole of Glasgow City Centre has been excluded. So what happened then is, the sheriff says to the procurator fiscal, well, we have a situation here that Robert Sproul has come back, and he's now found out the whole of Glasgow City Centre has been cordoned off with a boundary, when it should only be 3 streets, which is not right. So what happened then is, we had our dispute. At the end of the day, the procurator fiscal says that she was in her hands, and basically had mercy to decide what she was going to do. But to cut it short and sweet and no go on, people, the woman fiscal was gobsmacked, because the woman sheriff revoked the conditions of me getting into Glasgow, and that was a great result. And plus the fact, she also chinned the clerk, because she was trying to speak to her, and she said that, oh God, it was the same sheriff that banned it the first time when the process started 20 months ago. So I got the same sheriff. How lucky was that? But at the end of the day, we got that reviewed, and now I'm back up in August, the 10th, I think it is. Anyway, it's great to sit here and explain this, Richie. There's 2 ways you can work this, people, if you know what you're doing, but you've got to do your research and do it. You can switch from person to man, man to person, but you have to be really good at what you do and have the knowledge. And that's why I do. I switch for the 2 when it suits and required. Anyway, people, it's great to speak to you, Richie, and I hope this information is going out, makes a difference for people to understand what's going on. It's a pleasure to be sitting here talking to you again.
Oh, no, it's no bother. Listen, I've got a couple of questions. I don't know if we've got time to go through these.
I think we're running low on time.
Are we? Right,
Yes.
okay. Maybe save it for another day.
No problem,
Just some of
Richie.
the issues that happened throughout the court hearing. The constable switching his status to an officer, etc. But that's something we'll discuss at a later
Definitely,
date.
100.
But thanks very
I just
much.
want to get the information out as quick as I can.
It's
and
important.
positive.
It's important that people get this information and understand or comprehend what's actually happening in our so-called courts. But I
Definitely.
appreciate it, Robert. Thanks very much.
I'd like to thank the team again for this opportunity to do what we do and get information out there
It's
in a nice,
fantastic.
cool climate and environment, safe
Yep.
environment.
Yep, thanks a lot to the people as well. And again, once again, we hope that you make comments in the comments section. Any questions you want to ask, then ask, and I'll put them to Rob S, and hopefully we'll get some answers. But thanks again. Stay safe, folks. Thank you.
Bye-bye, people.